killing 10 people and injuring 3 others. One of the victims was a brave retired police officer, 55-year-old Aaron Salter, who was working as a security officer and responded by firing several shots back at the gunman, hitting the shooter in his bulletproof vest before he was hit back by deadly fire. Officer Salter was a hero. He died protecting his community, and we salute him. If it wasn't for him, things could have gotten a lot worse. The shooter purposely targeted a heavily black neighborhood. This was a racially motivated shooting. And now Joe Biden is jumping into full campaign mode. The White House scrambled the president's schedule and is sending Biden to Buffalo tomorrow. This is a drastic change from Biden's reaction to the Brooklyn subway shooting just last month and the Waukesha parade attack, 2 recently racially motivated shootings, 2 racially motivated attacks of late that Biden didn't have enough time to show up and mourn for. The White House was asked about this today. Listen.
How come the president is visiting Buffalo after a senseless tragedy there, but he couldn't visit Waukesha after 6 were killed and 61 injured in an attack on a Christmas parade there?
I mean, he's visited many communities. Buffalo, he's able to go tomorrow to Buffalo before the trip. That is something that was important for him to do. But he has visited many other communities.
Not Waukesha or Brooklyn. What do you think the difference is? Well, we know what the difference is. Both of those shooters were black supremacists with black nationalist ideologies, both equally as repugnant as the Buffalo shooter. So why is the left capitalizing on this attack and ignoring the others? Well, we have an idea. Rolling Stone lays the playbook out perfectly. Quote, "The Buffalo shooter isn't a lone wolf. He's a mainstream Republican." And there you go. The goal is to conflate white supremacists with the Republican Party. This is done to shame Republican voters and galvanize Democrat voters, especially African Americans. It's about as dirty as a political move as there is in American politics. Let's look at the facts. This is an individual who was radicalized in the greasy, dark crevices of the internet, where he spent most of his time browsing twisted websites out of boredom during COVID lockdowns and getting hooked on watching videos of other mass shooters. His parents failed him. His teachers failed him. And he failed himself. This is not your normal 18-year-old. People who went to school with him even mentioned he was the kid who actually showed up to school wearing a hazmat suit after lockdowns, trying to isolate from the whole world. In his crazy manifesto, which we read, so you didn't have to, he blatantly said he's not a conservative, not a Christian, but considers himself a white supremacist, a left-wing authoritarian, and an eco-nationalist. Those were his words. And says he targeted New York specifically because of their heavy gun laws, since he knew people carrying in the state would have a limited magazine capacity. The manifesto is filled with anti-Semitism, a fixation on the declining white birth rate, and weapons tactics. The left is seeking to capitalize on this racially motivated attack to further divide this country by race and profit from that division, politically and financially. They ignore racial violence like the Waukesha parade attack, the Brooklyn subway shooter, the Capitol Hill attacker who was influenced by the likes of Farrakhan. All those were swept under the rug. They're hot and cold on hate crimes. Because if you frame it around Republicans being racist and we need to take your gun away, what are we not talking about? Well, we're not talking about the economy being in ruins, gas prices hitting a record high for a 7th day in a row, crime run rampant, the border wide open, and Americans worse off now than when Joe Biden was elected. White guilt is a very powerful emotion. When people feel guilty, it makes it easy to manipulate them. There's great shame in being called a racist or being associated with racism. And there's a movement out there to associate racism with you. If you're white, if you vote Republican, if you don't have a racist bone in your body, doesn't matter. There are very powerful forces in this country that want you to be distracted and looking inside yourself for what's gone wrong. They don't want you looking outside at the rest of the country and what a mess they've made of it. This is a psyops game. Be careful out there. This country has a lot of love for one another, and we're more united than what they want us to believe. Don't let people like Joe Biden tell you who or what America is. We know exactly who we are in our hearts.